Jim, everyone. This is Dr. Josh, Crypto Mondays Global. Very excited today to talk to Joshua Davila. He is known as the Blockchain Socialist. Now, we haven't had many socialists on this program, considering the topic and considering where Crypto Mondays is usually at, really capitalist intensive and focused and raw markets, free markets. And we're always supportive of free markets. But in relation to what Joshua Davila does, it's looking at the bigger picture. And we are very excited to have him here. Let me just give you an overview. He's a prominent writer, podcaster, and builder who occupies a rare space in the tech world. He bridges the gap between leftist political theory, specifically post-capitalism and socialism, and blockchain technology. He's best known for his podcast, The Blockchain Socialist, and his book, award-winning book known around the world, Blockchain Radicals, How Capitalism Ruined Crypto and How to Fix It. Joshua argues that while the crypto industry has been largely captured by speculative, libertarian, and predatory capitalist interests, a lot of those people who we have on our show, the underlying technology, decentralization, distributed ledgers, smart contracts, hold significant potential for collective autonomy, mutual aid, and democratic economic governance. He's also co-founder of the Bread Cooperative. It's a worker-owned collective that builds financial tools rooted in solidarity rather than extraction. Great to have you here, Joshua.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, and happy to be with another Josh that podcasts.
Yeah, well, in the crypto circles, they call me Dr. Josh because I used to be a professor. But this is actually, I'm really excited that you're here. And just to inform the audience, this is probably going to be my last Crypto Mondays Global online podcast. So I'm moving on to something that's nearer and dearer to my heart, which besides crypto's needed in the world, blockchain's needed in the world, but also what's needed in the world is dads and dads training. And I'm a prolific dad and dad trainer. And so I'm doing a daddy's school, like daddy's cool, but daddy's school. And that'll be my my new podcast available. And if you follow me on Twitter or wherever, you'll see that. I have a series now called Dads of the Bible, where we go through the Bible and one by one through the different dads and highlight a dad skill that's relevant today, and also warnings. So make sure to check that out on the side. So I'm excited to have the alternate perspective than what we usually have on Crypto Mondays here today in this final episode of Crypto Mondays Global. Man, wow, there's just so much to unpack, but we've only got 15 minutes. Let's just get right into what are you thinking about right now? What's going on right now? We've seen Bitcoin go up and down. That's what Luke Kerner, the founder of Crypto Mondays, calls markets. He's never afraid about that. We look at things usually through a libertarian lens. Tell us about the socialism lens and why you found this your niche and why you devoted yourself to this.
Yeah, so I started doing my writing and podcasting, I think now 5 or 6 years ago, right before the pandemic started, is when I did it. And for me at the time, this is well before, no Ethereum applications or like smart contract applications like with crypto beyond kind of speculating on Coinbase or Binance were really around. And at the time, I was really interested in the idea of DAOs, the use of smart contracts as a way actually to plan economic activity in a way. So I think some people may have this feeling that there is, there's planning and then there are markets, as if they are two separate things. But I think in reality, what the technology shows is that we are intentional about the economic systems that we participate in and that we create, and that with these tools, we have the ability to create different types of economic systems and incentives that can better align in what I would call as some sort of post-capitalism or socialism or what have you. And Yeah, I don't know if we have the time to go into exactly the definition of capitalism or whatever else, but I would just say that it's something where people are not subjected to either being a wage laborer, to where they're dependent on some sort of company to provide them a wage, or are they a capitalist in which they are incentivized to extract people that they work with.
Right.
Not that that doesn't make you a bad person being one. It just simply means that the system around it is something that pushes people towards these kind of antisocial behavior, I guess I would say.
Antisocial behavior. That's really interesting, especially in this area, in the area what we're seeing in social media and AI and behavior modification technologies that have been, taken control by a few mega corporations, and you're seeing how they are also manipulating people's minds as well as behavior wrong way. Well, we won't get into the depths of what is capitalism, and this people can read your book for that or watch your podcast. But I want to get into what crypto people are typically interested in, which is casino and gambling. And so, I have a good friend, and he doesn't use crypto, but he's a very good investor in stocks and things. He goes, crypto, it's like casino. It's like casino. He talks like that. He's like, it's just casino. And so, you've argued in your book that capitalism ruined crypto. If we could strip away the current speculative casino layer of the industry, what is the actual utility that remains for a socialist or a leftist project?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that is multi-layered. It really depends on the kind of context that I think you're building in. But yeah, I mean, I would say generally, you know, technology itself, like I would never say is like bad. It's kind of like the way that in which it is used can be extractive, and that we've kind of introduced blockchains and cryptocurrency in a particular capitalist world, or like a mode of production that already exists, and therefore cryptocurrency and blockchains were co-opted by that economic system. It was kind of hard to, it's not possible just via technology to get out of those constraints. And so I think there are a couple of, I like to divide into two. One are the things that we can do now that kind of push the needle in a particular direction. And the other things is more, let's say, utopian, if we are able to like really dig into engaging with a different mode of production that we could align more with socialism, or something that is not capitalism at least. And so the things that I think that include what we can do now would be things that involve more the things that basically I'm building at Bread Cooperative are things that are around solidarity. The solidarity economy is already something that exists and is quite big, not nearly as big as like the broader extractive capitalist economy, but it involves things like labor unions, cooperatives, churches, mutual aid organizations, like all these different forms of economic activity that don't involve or depend on the profit motive in order to continue, right? People they have other reasons and incentives to be able to engage in this economic activity, and they want to give into it without necessarily trying to extract more money out of it than maybe they put in. There are different callings as to why they would do that. As far as things that are, utopian in the future, a while ago, I think more towards the beginning of when I was first starting my blog, I wrote this piece about this fictional mushroom kingdom, like Mario and Luigi, where they live in this post-capitalist society in which every person in their society is guaranteed a home. This was during like the start of COVID, whenever people were getting kicked out of their homes because they couldn't get a job, they couldn't afford rent, which I think exposed a certain vulnerability of capitalism when a pandemic hits. And so the idea there is that you would use the ledger as a way to track, you would track people in a way to where, based on their characteristics or certain aspects about themselves, they have a right to a either larger or smaller home. For example, if you are, in my example, Mario is a single father and Luigi is just a single guy. Mario, as a single father who has a kid, has a right to a larger home so that he could provide for his child and give them the space to be with them, to play or whatever, while Luigi doesn't really need, he He doesn't need 3 bedrooms. He's just one guy. And so kind of designating how resources are allocated based on need rather than on ability to pay.
Okay, and so so in the sense of Luigi or the hey, I like the single dad one. I got 2 kids. I was a single dad, and I was with my first kid in a studio apartment, right? Whereas I got a friend that's got no kids, and she's got a 5-bedroom house that was given to her by her grandparents. So, and she's living by herself. So I can understand, and I think most people can understand that need. However, it comes into the redistribution argument. It comes into the idea of incentives, and it comes into the idea of capitalism itself. You seem to present two solutions. One is adjusting current conditions and incentives within the current framework, and then recreating new frameworks, right? And I love this second one, because this is what I think a lot of people in the industry see as the potential for blockchain and AI now, in the sense of the post-labor economy and stuff like that. Now, when you talk, so it's like dual power in a way. So what are, besides or including the bread cooperative, what are some the most exciting examples of dual power that you've seen, where blockchain is actually helping people bypass existing failing institutions rather than just creating a new crypto capitalist version of those?
Right. So I would say that the very first example of the use of cryptocurrency that put cryptocurrency really on the map, or Bitcoin on the map, really in the early days, is a very good example of dual power.
Satoshi! Oh, sorry.
I'm thinking of more in the case of WikiLeaks. So at the time, in 2011, I want to say they had this financial blockade put on them because they just released the Cablegate papers that revealed all the war crimes that the U.S. and its allies had committed throughout the Middle East. And so they were being punished for that. But at the time, right before that happened, Julian Assange had started accepting Bitcoin for as donations to WikiLeaks. And it just skyrocketed the price at the time. It skyrocketed everyone then paying attention to it. And the first use case became clear, is that, WikiLeaks they have a lot of servers and like all these things that they have to upkeep, they have to pay for, they pay people's salaries, wages who are working on this thing. They were able to use the Bitcoin to get around the financial system to be able to continue the important work that they were doing. So in this case is really, in my view, cryptocurrency, it's not that interesting to think of cryptocurrency as a replacement of the financial system, but as something that is different to it. And that is important. It's good to have like this alternative financial system. And so like when you think of dual power, it's like two power structures, where WikiLeaks is on one hand advocating for its rights to be able to access funds and donations that it received in fiat money, while also getting around it through the use of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's a really good use case, and you can see also how certain power, obviously Julian Assange tried to take him out, and he's a hero of ours, and I think good on him, for him and his family, that he stood the course, and he showed what it takes. You have to sacrifice. And without sacrifice, there is no change, because obviously there's forces, both human and spiritual, that are definitely against these projects. I know we got very limited time. I want you to talk about, I got one more question for you for new people that want to start an economic democracy project or DAO or something like that. And we're not going to get into DAOs. I know you've been critical about that, how they devolve into plutocracies where token holders with the most money have all the voting power. But we won't get into that, unfortunately, today. But you guys can, viewers can always check out Joshua's podcast. I want you to tell me about the Bread Cooperative and this new Stacks that you're doing. This Stacks savings is, I think, super innovative. So here, just give us an overview of these two things.
Yeah, sure. So Bread Cooperative, like you mentioned before, it's a worker cooperative, worker directed nonprofit where we build out applications using crypto that are meant to facilitate solidaristic financial relationships. So we use this term solidarity primitives or solidarity tools to make it simpler for
Yeah.
people. A primitive in like technical terms, people may be familiar in DeFi with financial primitives, or like
Yeah.
bits of software that you that are very simple, that you that are kind of like building blocks that you combine together to make different financial products. It's a way of like technology is always like a facilitator of a certain type of social relationship, right? Like on social media, like whatever piece of technology that we're using, it's facilitating a particular social relationship, like us through this video call. In the financial primitives world, this is really about relationships of finance, of like buyer seller, like trying to like economic warfare in many respects. But what we're trying to do is to create these things that are more that facilitate relationships of solidarity. And so one of the first things that we built before I get into Stacks is called Solidarity Fund, which is basically a way for people to give stable coins to our application. You receive back bread tokens 1-to-1, so $1 is one bread. And in the background, the stablecoin generates yield that you as a bread holder can vote on how that gets distributed amongst a set of member projects who are aligned with a lot of our ideas. So this is one thing. This is a way that we've been able to figure out how we can fund ourselves to some degree without taking venture capital, without taking like big investors. And so what we're kind of incentivized to do, of course, in this model is to increase TVL, is to increase the creation of bread, our token, which is basically like a community token. You could think of it as like a mix between a community token and a credit union is the way I think about it. But so thinking back, when we were looking into what are some other things we should build that already exist in the solidarity economy, one thing that came up a lot for us is something called saving circles, or sometimes called Roskas. Basically, it's a financial arrangement that is super common all over the world, in particular in places like the Global South, where there aren't these types of where financial institutions are just not like readily available for a lot of people. But it's a way to save money collectively while also offering zero interest loans to the people in your community. So you're not relying on extractive banks who will charge much higher interest rates for giving out loans.
So it's like micro loans, which is kind of what was innovated in Bangladesh, right? And that is combined with the savings instrument, a collective savings instrument. So you take the loans from that collective savings?
Basically, so the way it works, let's say you, me, and one other person are in a savings circle, and we're each trying to save $100 a week. Every week, we would all put $100 in the pot, and one person would get $300. And then the next week come back, everyone puts $100 in the pot, and the next person gets 300. And we just keep taking turns so that each person, usually these savings circles also have significantly more people to be, especially in a lot of places.
Sure, especially in the Global South or in India, where great.
Yeah. And so basically what it does is just gives each person a turn to have liquidity available to them so that they can make some sort of significant purchase or useful purchase for them, whether that's like, putting a down payment on a home, buying a vehicle, paying for a wedding, like all these types of life expenses, or maybe like even just for their business to buy a bunch of inventory. There's a lot of different reasons why someone would need an injection of liquidity in a particular moment that they can pay off over time. But the thing is, they need like that particular high amount in order to make an investment into something. If you have a bunch of debts and loans, if you have student loans, for example, I know you're also interested in that, you can pay off the loan with the highest interest rate first by collectivizing the money that you have together with your friends. So everyone gets a turn to pay down their highest interest rate debt, for example.
Love that. So you're taking some financial consulting on board too for people that don't have that knowledge or those competencies as well. That's significant, and then you're using the collective and solidarity. I like how you're consistent through all these things, but you're also building these things. And so everybody, there will be the links in the description to the Bread Cooperative and to the Stacks program. If you're interested in getting involved in that or having a project built by them, I definitely suggest that you get involved with this. This is amazing use of blockchain. Last thing, because you are a builder, if you were starting a new project today aimed at building economic democracy, what is the one technical or social hurdle you think would be most important to clear for these about these other younger guys? I mean, you're a super young guy, but these other new builders into the space, what would they want to clear first before they move forward on their project?
I mean, I think at least one of the problem spaces that I think are the most interesting and require a lot of good thinking and a lot of technical people to get involved with is identity. I think identity has been kind of like the thing that the missing key that's been missing in the crypto space for a long time, and which is why we've had this problem with, you know, the ability for like all these DAOs and like larger organizations that have some sort of governance around them, why they simply rely on token governance, because there weren't any decent identity systems to be able to, rather than base, you know, voting and governance power on someone's capital, but instead base it on their humanity or base it on just something else. I think identity, and while preserving privacy at the same time, this is a big problem space that I think a lot of people, I think will be like the next major unlock for a lot of crypto stuff.
Excellent. Well, today we've unlocked a lot with Joshua Davila, the Blockchain Socialist. Thank you so much for your time, Joshua. It was a very exciting, interesting interview. And just my last message to everyone is the same message that I had when I came to Crypto Mondays in 2019 and when I came to crypto and Ethereum in 2015 is this: there's a lot more uses for blockchain and crypto than casino. And Joshua just proved that, and he proves it every day with his actions. Good luck to you, man. Good luck to everybody, dude. Crypto Mondays, rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you.